Ok, muy buenos días a todos. Es un gusto para mí, para la Cámara de Comercio Latinoamericana y para la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos en Nigeria, compartir con ustedes este webinar de cómo hacer negocios en Nigeria, cuáles son esas oportunidades que ustedes pueden encontrar en temas de inversión y de negocios directamente en Nigeria, qué es lo que está pasando hoy en día, cuáles son las perspectivas, cuáles son, digamos, esos aspectos integrales que todo negocio que en este momento está buscando hacer oportunidades con el continente africano, qué es lo que puede, digamos, y qué es lo que nos ofrece este país en términos generales. Para la Cámara de Comercio, y en mi nombre, Sebastián Galindo Cantor, vicepresidente de la misma, es un gusto compartir estos espacios de conocimiento y creación y divulgación de conocimiento directamente con especialistas en el continente. Este webinar va a ser híbrido, va a tener una transmisión en inglés y en español. Igual, después de la participación de nuestros panelistas, pues vamos haciendo como ese recap en español. ¿Listo? Pero también vamos a estar en inglés. I will switch to English. Good morning, everyone. Good morning here from Bogotá, Colombia, in South America. Good afternoon in Lagos, Nigeria, for the Latin American and African Chamber of Commerce, CLAF, the Chamber of Lagos, Nigeria, and Industry. It's a pleasure to partner in this webinar in order to give this kind of introduction of the different opportunities that we can find between Nigeria and Latin America. This is going to help you to get some insights about our markets and how Latin American companies could get and advance and make and open new trade opportunities between Latin America and Nigeria, and how can Nigerian companies could get some information about doing business in Latin America. For us, it's a pleasure, and for me, it's a pleasure to share this conversation with our two guests, and Dr. Seni and Dr. Shimri Amona. So, welcome. Good morning from Colombia. Good afternoon to Lagos. And I would like that every one of you a brief remark and introduction of yourself. So, I will give you the floor to Dr. Shimri. Good afternoon, Dr. Shimri. Good morning from Colombia.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. It's a real pleasure to be here. Good afternoon to Nigerians and good morning to Colombia. Distinguished leaders of the Latin American Chamber, Latin American and Africa Chamber of Commerce, distinguished leaders and entrepreneurs within the Latin American business community. It's a real pleasure to be before you today. I'm Dr. Chinyere Almona. I am the Director General and the Chief Executive Officer of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry is a chamber that was established in 1888. That means we've been in existence for 138 years. And we do several things, including advocacy, including promotion of trade, capacity building for the business community, and several other issues, creating a platform for business owners, business leaders, and entrepreneurs to actually network amongst themselves, but also to enhance their business participation. Sebastian, are you okay for me to continue in English, or do you need to interpret intermittently?
I will make some brief introduction about yourself. Entonces, esta mañana nos acompaña la doctora Shembre. Ella es la directora de la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos en Nigeria. Es una de las cámaras, es la cámara más antigua, fundada desde 1888, y es la cámara de comercio más antigua. Es una cámara dedicada al establecimiento y al fortalecimiento de las relaciones comerciales y de inversión en Nigeria, específicamente en la región de Lagos.
Okay, so today we are focused on exploring opportunities to do business in Nigeria. And while we are really excited to host this event, it takes me back to the first time I met Sebastian. I actually met Sebastian and Dr. Angelica in Algeria at the Intra-Africa Trade Fair in September 2025. And we agreed that it would be important for the business community in Colombia to partner or to engage with the business community in Lagos so that we can see how we can exchange business ideas, but also enhance South-South collaboration.
Justamente habla de la oportunidad que nosotros tuvimos la oportunidad de intercambiar ideas entre CLAF y la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos en nuestra visita a la ciudad de Algeria en la Feria de Comercio Interafricano en el pasado mes de septiembre en Algeria, norte de África. Y desde este punto, tanto la Cámara Latinoafricana como la Cámara de Lagos se han interesado en identificar cómo pueden crear oportunidades de trabajo conjunto y cómo compañías tanto de Latinoamérica como de Nigeria pueden crear y empezar a trabajar en estas oportunidades.
Nigeria is Africa's largest economy by population. We're estimated to be over 220 million people, and this is 220 consumers in Nigeria. This is a very vibrant and dynamic marketplace, and it is a strategic gateway to the rest of Africa. So beyond the numbers, Nigeria also represents scale in terms of opportunities, huge opportunities for business, but also huge opportunities to innovate and engage with one another, particularly for companies that are seeking to grow their markets and have strong footprints to engage across borders.
Nos cuenta que Nigeria es el país más poblado que tiene el continente africano, aproximadamente con más de 240 millones de habitantes y con una población completamente joven, lo que lo hace un país completamente estratégico, no solo para el desarrollo de nuevas oportunidades y consumidores, sino también como un punto de ingreso para los diferentes países en esta región del continente africano.
The Nigerian-Latin American business relations, for me, it has huge potentials, but we are underperforming. So there's so much we can do together, but we're doing so little together. Therefore, I'm really excited that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce is leading this charge that's going on from now will increase the trade flows between Nigeria and Colombia. And that's, historically, we focus on sectors such as energy, agriculture, mining, and commodities. But there are so many things that we can do together. And we have seen that there's traction in manufacturing. We have seen renewable energy. There's pharmaceuticals, construction, fintech, logistics. There are so many things that we can work on together.
Para la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos ha identificado grandes oportunidades de colaboración y de intercambio de información que se pueden generar desde Nigeria, Colombia y Latinoamérica. Si bien hoy las operaciones comerciales no son significativas, sí se ha podido identificar bajo diferentes estudios que las oportunidades se pueden presentar en sectores estratégicos como temas de energía y agroindustria.
For me, I believe that there are so many comparative advantages that both countries can lay claim to. For instance, we have an SME-driven economy. So SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, are really the bedrock of both economies. And so if we work together, we can actually enhance the strength of SMEs to local production because we have a huge market in Nigeria. Nigeria is also the hub for the rest of Africa. And through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, companies investing in Nigeria can gain access to the rest of Africa.
Uno de los temas que comparten ambas regiones es su estructura en cuanto a las pequeñas y medianas empresas. El fortalecimiento y la creación de este tipo de capacidades puede también desarrollar nuevas oportunidades de negocio, siendo que Nigeria se convierte en ese punto de ingreso por su estructura y por su facilidad para hacer negocios.
So today's session is timely. It's an opportunity to exchange ideas. It's an opportunity to exchange insights and identify concrete opportunities also to begin the conversation. So once again, I welcome you all very warmly and encourage you to ask the questions you have in your mind, and we'll try as much as possible to provide answers. I will hand over to my colleague, Dr. Sunny, who will take you through a more in-depth presentation on doing business in Nigeria. Thank you very much for being here.
Finalmente, pues agradece la participación y esta primera oportunidad de hacer un intercambio de información e ideas y para futuros desarrollos que se pueden hacer entre los diferentes interesados en realizar y conocer e integrar más de las oportunidades comerciales entre ambas partes. So, old session English. Dr. Suni, good morning from Colombia. Good afternoon from good afternoon in Lagos. Thanks, Dr. Chambry. So, Dr. Suni, the floor is yours, and thanks to be with us and share this experience with the Latin American people that are interested to know more about Nigeria, what is happening, and the business environment.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to my DJ. So I have a presentation here, though I have your 5 questions that I've been attending to. Okay. So the presentation is on.
Okay. So
can you see?
Yeah, the presentation is on the screen.
All right.
Nigeria business environment, Lagos Chamber of Commerce.
All right. So while I'm presenting this, I'll be attending to the questions you have asked. I have about 5 questions here. I'll be attending to them simultaneously. So it's just to look at what the Nigerian economy is. Looking at key facts. It's an economy of about $250 billion in size in terms of GDP, and also a population of about 232 million people, with a growth of GDP at least above 3.5 in recent quarters. Our major export is crude oil for petroleum, and also our major import before now has been refined fuels. Okay, should I allow you to make some interpretation?
Yeah, I will give the main ideas. Básicamente el doctor Samir nos cuenta un poco de la estructura y de los datos estratégicos de la economía nigeriana en cuanto a su población. Como se ha identificado, pues es uno de los países más poblados de esta región de África, sus principales importaciones y sus principales exportaciones, siendo las exportaciones de mayor participación, todo lo que tiene que ver con el sector de oil and gas, igual pues obviamente también en cuanto a su estructura, tanto de importaciones como exportaciones.
Okay, so just regarding your first question, talking about what are the main business opportunities in Nigeria that Latin American companies should be aware of. And that will take you to the left side of my presentation right now. You see the fastest growing sectors. And I will start by talking about what situations we have in the country that are requiring solutions, which Latin companies can provide. And that is first, the opportunities, I'll start with food processing. Food processing. So we produce a lot of food, but we need that middle gap of processing to come into it so that we can add value to what we produce before we export them. So currently we have a policy that talks about 30% value addition policy, which means that anything you want to export from Nigeria, there must be at least a 30% processing that must have happened to it. So I see that policy framework as providing an opportunity for food processors. So if Latin companies would like to take that, I would start by saying food processing is a big opportunity. We have opportunity in transport. we have opportunity. I mean, we are looking at 232 million citizens moving around, carrying for services and for goods. So definitely we need a lot of transport infrastructure and transport solutions to cater to their mobility. We have issues with power supply for some time now. So and we are looking into renewable energy solutions, solar systems and all of that, inverters. So those are opportunities in those areas. Then of course, solid minerals. But again, we are looking at solid minerals in terms of refining them, not taking the solid minerals in their raw forms for export, but mining them and refining them. So what I've said practically is that we have opportunities in food processing, transport, renewable energy solutions, and solid minerals.
Okay, now we'll make the translation.
Yes.
El primer punto que nos habla el doctor Samir es sobre las diferentes oportunidades o esas necesidades que en este momento requiere el mercado nigeriano y que las compañías latinoamericanas que están en estos sectores pues tienen una oportunidad de apertura. Primero todo lo que tiene que ver con el procesamiento de alimentos, todo de dar ese valor agregado. Nigeria tiene una gran producción alimentaria, sin embargo, es necesario todo el tema de procesamiento y empaques, entre otros, que puedan dar ese valor agregado a los productos. Esto representa, digamos, uno de los primeros grandes sectores que se presentan como oportunidades para el desarrollo de negocios como tal. El segundo punto que nos habla de esos sectores es el tema de transporte e infraestructura. Nigeria es un país que presenta un alto crecimiento de su población, pues esto también significa movilidad, una constante movilidad. Entonces el sector de infraestructura de transporte también representa una oportunidad de negocios importantes. Y finalmente, soluciones en cuanto a los temas energéticos y finalmente nos habla del tema de extracción mineral. No es extracción únicamente del producto en bruto, sino digamos también todo lo que le pueda generar valor agregado en cuanto a los temas de refinamiento y extracción de minerales.
All right. So I said this earlier, the slide on the screen is just telling the position of Nigeria's economy in terms of Africa. Nigeria is a very veritable gateway to the whole of the African continent. Fourth largest economy, but is the largest market with 232 million people. So going next, we see the investment opportunities, performance. Nigeria has performed very well in terms of trading with other countries and also welcoming a lot of imports and establishing commercial presence in the country. So we're quite open when you look at our statistics on whether import, export, capital importation. We see a lot of foreign portfolio investment coming to Nigeria, and but we kind of more interested in FDIs. FDI, that's foreign direct investment, which means kind of having some form of commercial presence in Nigeria where you produce in Nigeria and sell to Nigeria, within Nigeria, and export within even Africa. I'll be talking more about that when we talk about the question on AFCFTA.
Ok, uno de los puntos también que trae, digamos, y cómo las diferentes oportunidades que se pueden generar para empresas latinoamericanas es que está enfocado, digamos, el gobierno nigeriano, esa es la atracción de inversión extranjera directa. Lo que se busca es que empresas de diferentes, y cómo están ellos trayendo capital, es que se atraiga capital, se haya una presencia comercial directamente en el país, no solamente para generar negocios de exportación directa y de consumo en el mercado nigeriano, sino también tomar Nigeria como para el hub de desarrollo hacia los diferentes países vecinos y a través de la región. También identificando que los niveles de inversión extranjera directa en Nigeria se han recuperado desde niveles prepandemia y pandemia.
Okay, so I have the next slide looking at why invest in Nigeria. So I'm going to just describe for you what the business environment is in Nigeria. And I'll also be taking your number 2 question. Your number 2 question is saying, what are the key aspects of Nigerian business culture that Latin American companies should understand in terms of communication styles, how we negotiate, and how we build relationship. Generally, this is going to be, it's not good. We can't finish talking about this on this webinar. Definitely when you go to a foreign.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. Hi, can you hear me, Mr. Dr. Samir?
Can you still hear me?
Oh, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you are back.
Okay, I think the network went off. So I was trying to say regarding your number 2 question, that anytime you go to any foreign country, you have to take out some time to understand their language, their culture, how they do business, and all of this. So we can't finish talking about knowing about the culture of Nigeria and Latin America in this webinar. But what I will say shortly is to say that definitely when you get into a foreign land, you need to work with established private sector institutions that can guide you and hold you to navigate the regulatory environment in that country. Every country has different regulatory environment, different business environment, and how they invest and how they do their business. So definitely when you get to a foreign land, you need to take out some time, work with established institutions. For instance, you come into Nigeria, working with the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we can direct you, we can help you, we can lead you to navigate how you go about setting up and running your business. So that's about that. So why will you want to invest in Nigeria? For instance, we have a growing population, growing youthful population. We have a lot of natural resources. When we talk of mineral resources, agric resources, land resources, forest resources, water resources, they are quite huge. So it's open, these are all open for a lot of initiatives to arise. We also have a very stable political environment. We run a democracy for several years uninterrupted. And we also have, like I said, a young and skilled labor force. We have advanced financial system that is quite sophisticated enough to handle and support international trade to a good extent. Let me allow you to interpret again.
Bueno, nos cuenta primero diferentes aspectos basados en lo que es la atracción de inversión extranjera directa, pero también, digamos, de ese ambiente de negocios que toda empresa debe tener en cuenta al momento de llegar a un mercado. Habla mucho de que es importante entender las diferentes dinámicas respecto a lo que puede llegar a ser el lenguaje, respecto a lo que puede llegar a ser el significado del tiempo, entre otros aspectos que se vuelven claves. Esto nos podría obviamente entender y describir tanto culturalmente a un país como Nigeria o Colombia, Latinoamérica o en África, pues un tiempo pertinente. Sin embargo, uno de los aspectos que él identifica como mayor potencial es el tema de establecer un contacto directo con las diferentes agencias de promoción de inversión, con las cámaras de comercios, como la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos, que siempre van a estar dispuestas para facilitar y navegar de manera más óptima los diferentes retos que se tienen que establecer en materia. En el segundo punto habla por qué invertir o por qué desarrollar negocios en Nigeria. Primero, identifica lo que significa la gran cantidad de recursos y la riqueza que tiene el país en cuanto a sus recursos naturales, en cuanto al uso de tierras, agua y demás. Nos habla obviamente de su gran población, que también es una población completamente joven. Nos identifica también que Nigeria es un país que tiene una estabilidad política y que se ha caracterizado por la misma desde un punto de vista completamente democrático. Y finalmente destaca las habilidades que está teniendo esta población joven en todo el tema de desarrollo de manejo de sistemas informáticos. Entonces, digamos que podemos traducir que esos son los principales aspectos que nosotros como latinos podríamos tener en cuenta para el por qué invertir en Nigeria. We can continue.
All right. So regarding your third question is talking about what Latin American companies should know about doing business in Nigeria regarding especially regulations and market dynamics. So I will let you know that for us in Nigeria, we quite huge in regulation. Our banking sector is very well regulated. In fact, our services, our financial market, capital market, insurance, pension, banking, fintechs, they are very, very well regulated. And so you don't have any fears about that. We have the oil and gas, also very well regulated with an overarching regulation called the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. So that regulates the activities in the oil and gas sector. The solid minerals sector is also coming up very, very strongly with lots of new regulations trying to reform the sector. So these are quite huge in regulation. Then the food production sector is also very well regulated. Looking at NAFDAC, we have a food regulator called NAFDAC and the standards organization called SOM, Standard Organization of Nigeria. I'm sure you also have such in your domain. So these are organizations that regulate food production, food processing, food distribution, and food consumption in Nigeria. So I would say to us that for us in Nigeria, we have a very well-regulated business environment. But again, like I said earlier, when you get to a foreign land, you need to study, try and understand what the regulations are, and get someone that is quite established, an institution that is quite established to help you understand what the regulations are and how to navigate them and not run foul of regulators. At the Chamber, for instance, we are an advocacy body. From time to time, we speak for the business community when they have any issue with any regulator. So we are like the advocate for the business community to tell the regulators what they are doing, and we think they should do it better or stop or reverse or suspend and all of that. So we do a lot of that through a lot of stakeholders engagement. We engage with government on behalf of businesses. So that is the role that SCCI basically plays in terms of helping Latin American companies coming to Nigeria to navigate the regulatory environment.
Como previamente lo ha dicho, y si entramos a analizar cuáles son esas dinámicas del mercado, destaca mucho, por ejemplo, la regulación y la fortaleza que se tiene en sectores estratégicos de la economía, como el sector de banca y oil and gas, que permiten, pues, obviamente, tener toda la tranquilidad y toda la certeza en cuanto al manejo regulatorio de estos sectores. Sin embargo, como lo establece previamente, es importante que, pues, obviamente, al diversificar y llegar a nuevos mercados, pues se cuente con ese actor estratégico, este partner estratégico, este caso ellos se identifican como, por ejemplo, desde la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos, ellos se han convertido en ese dinamizador también de las relaciones y de las regulaciones entre el sector de los negocios y pues obviamente en los propios entes reguladores, sirviendo como un representante y pues obviamente facilitando esas dinámicas entre el sector de gobierno y el sector de los negocios para facilitar y atraer esas operaciones y ese proceso de inversión de negocios como tal a Nigeria.
Okay, so the fourth question is on African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And you're asking about what is the role of AFCFTA in facilitating trade between Latin America and Nigeria. So the role of the whole objective of AFCFTA is to promote intra-African trade. Yes, that's on one side. It does not preclude Africa trading with the rest of the world. We just saw that our trading with the rest of the world is quite more buoyant than trading within ourselves. So that agreement came into force to help African countries trade more within ourselves. So how this agreement can work between American companies. Hello, can you still hear me?
Yeah, could you repeat the last 2 minutes?
Can you hear me?
I think that,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh.
But could you repeat the last 2 minutes? Because I think that the signal was dropped a little bit.
Okay. So I was talking about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AFCFTA. And the question you have, your number 4 question is, what is the role of this agreement and how can it facilitate trade between Latin America and Nigeria? So I was saying that the whole idea about the AFCFTA is to boost trading between African countries and themselves. That's what we call intra-African trade. It does not preclude trading, it does not preclude trade between Africa and the rest of the world. We see trade with the rest of the world very well, but we want to boost, we want to improve the trade that happens within the continent. So how does this affect Latin American companies and African countries like Nigeria? It is that when Latin American companies come to Nigeria, for instance, establish their presence, their commercial presence, manufacture their products, then that product will satisfy the rules of origin, which makes it qualify for export under the AFCFTA. So you cannot produce from Latin America and ship to Africa under the AFCFTA. It will not meet the rules of origin. The rules of origin states that the products to be traded under AFCFTA must be products produced locally in Africa. So that calls for Latin companies coming to Nigeria to set up their businesses, produce what they want to produce, and from here, we also have what we call the free trade zones, where they can produce for export. So through the free trade zone, they can produce for export into every other country in Africa. So that's the gateway, that's the connection. That's what is the possibility. Let me allow you to explain that.
Bueno, nos habla básicamente cómo podría hacer el impacto en el acuerdo continental africano. Básicamente establece que el mismo lo que busca es fortalecer el comercio intraafricano y las normas, digamos, están para desarrollar el comercio, lo que es el comercio interno en África. Sin embargo, pues digamos que la forma en que se puede fortalecer es... Puedo hacer una pregunta en inglés para tener tema y ya voy por la traducción. So, I just, in order to clarify that question, it's the AFCTA, yeah, it only works for Africa, as so far I understand. But the way that Latin American companies could use or be able to use the AFCTA, the African Continental Trade Agreement, is like they establish their company in Nigeria, they produce in Nigeria,
Yes.
and from then they start to launch to other markets. That's the way.
Yes. Yes.
Ok, thanks. I will make the
Yes.
traduction. Entonces,
Yeah.
claro, el acuerdo
Okay.
continental es un acuerdo intraafricano. Entonces, digamos que la oportunidad es entender cómo Nigeria va a ser ese gateway o ese punto de partida para poder expandirnos hacia otros mercados en el continente. Esto va muy ligado a lo que nos decían ahorita de inversión extranjera. Es cómo podemos utilizar, cómo podemos dinamizar esas oportunidades de inversión una vez instalados, agreguemos valor, se puede realizar el proceso de expansión hacia nuevos mercados en la región. Sir, I have a question here. There are like many
Okay.
questions. There are people from Mexico, there are people from Brazil, from Colombia that are listening to us.
Okay.
And one of the questions is about the taxes, the taxes regime in Nigeria. So the income tax, or what are the main, or what are the general taxes that a company will pay when they're going to get, or when they're going to introduce themselves in Nigeria? Let's talk about, for
Okay.
example, the income tax for new companies, or there are like any exemptions for new companies that are going to be established in Nigeria?
Okay. So we have for tax regimes in Nigeria, we have for new entrants to the economy, we have what we call the pioneer status incentives. Pioneer status. So pioneer, that is, you are coming to the country for the first time to establish your commercial presence, to produce, employ local hands in the process. So you are going to be entitled to what we call the pioneer status exemption. But going forward, we actually started a new tax regime this January 1st, where the whole of our tax system was overhauled and reformed, restructured. So what it is today is that it has allowed companies to have more leverage than before. So yes, companies will still pay the company income tax, but that is if you are within the threshold that it affects. Of course, companies also pay the payee for their staff. Deducted from the staff payee. Salaries. Those are things that are common to any other economy. So in Nigeria, we don't necessarily have some form of taxes that are not quite common across many other nations. So it's the same VAT, company income tax, withholding tax, all of those other taxes are what also charged in Nigeria.
Okay, just in order to get clarified about the panel status. When you say this is for new companies that are going to enter to the Nigerian market, and this is going to keep you an exception in all taxes or some kind of taxes?
Yes, so it will be in some taxes.
Okay.
So it will be in some taxes. We can share with you the document detailing all of this, how long it will take, what sectors it affects. Some sectors have more incentives than others. There are sectors that we are trying to encourage investors to come into. So those sectors have more incentives than other sectors. So we can share that document with you through our connection, and you can have them to understand the sectors, the types of incentives, the length of it, and dimensions. Yeah.
Okay, and the second question that I have, you say that you were talking about the last tax reform that this was made and is in force since January 1st, 2026. Just to know the income tax rate for today companies.
Okay, I can share that with you after now. It's graded, it's not flat for all companies. It's graded.
Okay.
Yes. So I can share that with you also. So let me take note of that as the second thing we'll share with you after now.
Okay. I will make the traduction. Bueno, digamos que entre todo el proceso de atracción de inversión extranjera que tiene el gobierno nigeriano, hay una ley, how do you say, panel status?
Yeah, pioneer status. Pioneer.
Pioneer status.
Yeah, that's new entrant.
Hay una ley, Pano Status, que establece una serie de excepciones, digamos, frente al cumplimiento de temas tributarios y que lo que busca es que estas excepciones, de acuerdo al tipo de sector, de acuerdo a la inversión y el ingreso de nuevas compañías, pues digamos va a haber unos beneficios fiscales, información que nos van a compartir, nosotros compartiremos en nuestras redes sociales, porque digamos que nos cuenta que esto va a depender dependiendo del sector y dependiendo del tipo de compañía de inversión, pues digamos que van a haber las excepciones generales en cuanto a temas de impuestos. Y básicamente también nos cuenta de un nuevo cambio en el régimen de impuestos como tal en el país, del cual nos estarán compartiendo información, que pues digamos en términos generales, el impuesto general como es el impuesto a la renta, pues es un impuesto que es dependiendo de algunos factores que ya nosotros también estaremos compartiendo con ustedes para dinamizar este tipo de información. So, sir, I have another question. These questions came from Sao Paulo, from Brazil, and they request if there are like if there are any program or permanent residency for investment for people that are going to make an investment and permanent residency.
I can't get it.
These questions came from someone in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and they request if there are like any special program for permanent residency for investors.
Okay. So yes, we have a special program for investors who are given permits. There's business permits that they apply for from Ministry of Interior, and once they are granted that status, that allows them to stay for whatever agreed number of years that they apply for. So we have that. So it protects any investors that are coming in, and if you need to come with critical employees, technical experts that you need to come with, there are policies that cover them adequately. Yeah.
Ok, sí, nos cuenta que el gobierno como tal tiene un programa de visados especiales para nuevas inversiones, lo cual pues obviamente le permitirá al inversor pues estar legalmente y contar digamos con todos los procesos de protección de su inversión y que pueda estar y cumplir con todos los demás temas migratorios asociados a estos procesos. The same person requested like it says like it's like a golden visa, it's like a special visa, yeah.
Okay, yes. The visa is, once you have your business visa that have come in, there's what we call expatriate permit. Expatriate. We call it expatriate permit.
Okay.
You get that? Yes. That is for expatriates that need to come because of that investment to work in Nigeria. That is possible.
Ok, sí, entonces también lo identifica como una visa especialmente para expatriados. Okay. Well, I will give you the floor so you can continue with the regulatory environment, and after that, I will make some questions that we have from Chile, and I think that we have one question. Well, we have other questions. So, but let's continue with the regulatory environment.
Okay. So my last slide here is talking about having a description of the legal and regulatory environment in Nigeria. So like I said, the oil and gas is quite regulated. You can see the first point there, the Petroleum Industry Act. We have what we call the Nigeria's first policy, trying to promote local production of goods and services. We have the 30% minimum value addition to food items before they are exported. We have the banking sector reforms that are going on right now. The exchange rates are quite close, they are harmonized. The unification started since 2023. So as of today, the rates that we have today is almost just a rate, just as you have it in your domain. We have energy reforms going on, power sector reform. A lot of that is going on, creating a lot of opportunities for states in Nigeria to generate their own electricity and distribute. And they are waiting for a lot of investors to come in to help them galvanize all of these. The insurance sector is also going through a major reform. We have what we call the um, tax administration, like I said earlier. A new tax system just started in 2026, January 1st, which is definitely more sensitive to investors, especially for investors like yours, like you. This tax is far more business-like than what we used to have. So these are the improvements that we have seen in recent times that give hope, that tells us that doing business in Nigeria is getting better and getting more profitable. But I'll round up with your fifth question, number five question that you have here. You asked about the practical advice we can give to Latin American businesses that want to come and do business in Nigeria in terms of partnerships, common pitfalls, and all of that to avoid. So I will go back to what I said earlier, that coming to Nigeria, for instance, you need private sector driven institutions like the FCCI and others who can handhold you, direct you, help you to navigate how to go about all of these that we have said. So it's not about you going it alone. You need to learn about some things and then follow through what you've been helped with. So, for instance, we have recently the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade, and Investment came up with three new policies, which are all meant to make Nigeria more open for trade, for people to come in. For instance, it's talking about trade in services. There's a policy on trade in services. So in Nigeria now, we can, export our services much easier than before now. There are policies guiding it. We have the intellectual property policy framework, which also helps to protect intellectual property. So if you're coming to the country, you have a policy, you have a regulation around intellectual property to guide and protect your intellectual property that you're coming in with. Then we also have a policy on digital trade, which is also a big space for our trade missions and all of that. So these three policies came in newly towards the end of last year. They are all stories to tell us that Nigeria wants to do more business, wants to be open to more foreign investors to come in, and creating a more conducive investment environment. Yeah.
Bueno, básicamente ya empieza a identificar algunos temas específicos en cuanto a los temas regulatorios y cómo navegar los temas de cumplimiento que todo negocio debe hacer al momento de ingresar al mercado nigeriano. Nos trae, digamos, a colación algunos en diferentes sectores que se están presentando, principalmente aquellos que son de alto interés propios del gobierno, en temas, por ejemplo, como el sector de oil and gas, en cuanto al tema de nuevas energías, entre otros. El tema previamente que se había identificado del sector de agroindustria y agregación y de valor agregado, pero también habla de otros temas que pues obviamente han tomado relevancia en el mercado nigeriano, como es lo relacionado con el comercio digital, y básicamente en general nos está diciendo las reformas y los cambios institucionales que se están generando por el gobierno, lo que buscan es la apertura de las oportunidades de mercado y la apertura para la atracción de nuevos negocios que se están dando. ¿Listo?
All right.
Yeah.
So, in rounding up, in summary, I will say that what we have said this afternoon is that we talked about the opportunities, the sectors that have the opportunities, and I mentioned to you food processing, solid minerals, transport, renewable energy solutions. We talked about AFCFTA, that is African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and I told you how Latin American companies can actually establish commercial presence in Nigeria, produce, satisfy the rules of origin, and export through our free trade zones to other countries in Africa. Then also told you about how regulated the Nigerian economy is in terms of some critical sectors like the oil and gas sector, sectors like the banking and finance, that is financial markets generally, where we have the banks, the fintechs, the capital market, insurance, pension, and all of them. They are quite well regulated. Food processing is also food processing and distribution is also well regulated by NAFDAC, the food agency, and the Standard Organization of Nigeria, the standards body. Also told us that coming into a new environment, you will need to definitely do some study, and through established institutions, like for instance in Nigeria, you can work with Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I also told you that new investors coming into the Nigerian economy enjoy what we call the pioneer status incentive. This is graded according to different sectors, according to the ones that are most critical to our needs at this time. Those are some of the things that we talked about this afternoon on trying to help Latin American businesses understand the Nigerian economy to the point that they can be comfortable to come and establish their commercial presence in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Bueno, finalmente él hace un barrido de los diferentes temas que hemos dialogado esta mañana, hora Colombia, hora Latinoamérica, esta tarde hora en Nigeria, sobre las diferentes oportunidades comerciales y cuáles son esos sectores más dinámicos donde se pueden generar oportunidades de encadenamientos, oportunidades para desarrollo de estos temas de inversión, oportunidades para temas de exportación en Latinoamérica y cuáles, digamos, son esas prioridades que tiene el mercado nigeriano. Él vuelve a destacar y a resaltar la importancia de todo lo que tiene que ver con el sector de agroproceso y manufactura, lo cual, digamos, abre grandes oportunidades. El tema de beneficios que pueden atraer las características en cuanto a inversión extranjera directa y en general que Nigeria como país pues está dispuesto y desde la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos están dispuestos a apoyar cualquier proceso de expansión e inversión extranjera o de negocios que estén interesadas en hacer, que cualquier empresa latinoamericana esté interesada en hacer o en crecer o indagar sobre estas oportunidades. También que esto sí, también digamos situación que también lo hacemos desde la Cámara de Comercio Latinoamericana en este trabajo en conjunto que comenzamos hoy día con la Cámara de Comercio de Lagos. Well, Dr. Summer, I know that we're running out of time.
Okay.
Because we're like, this was like just like a brief insight of the market opportunities that any Latin American country could have. Well, we had many questions, participation from many Latin American countries. There are questions about digital trade, services. There are kind of questions, no, most of the question is about digital trade, the experience of Nigeria, business opportunities, of exchange of information. But well, we're going to be further to make further discussions in the specific topics. I think that services it will be one of the most questions that we have. But I will just want to say thanks, Dr. Sami. Thanks for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity. I know this is the first webinar. This is just like a little step of something bigger. Well, and thanks very much to anyone that was here with us in this first webinar. This is going to be a series of webinar and exchange of information. If you need further information, you can contact us here in Latin America. You can contact the Chamber of Commerce of Lagos in order to require any business information, any investment information, taxes information. We're going to be more grateful to help you to grow and gain the momentum between the relations between Nigeria, between the African continent, the Latin American, and for the Colombian or companies around the continent. Muchísimas gracias a todos, ha sido un gusto poderlos acompañar. Esto fue un breve insight de lo que significa y las oportunidades que se tienen de Colombia, Latinoamérica, hacia Nigeria, de esas perspectivas macroeconómicas, de esas perspectivas culturales, de esas perspectivas de cumplimiento legal que toda compañía debería cumplir o debe saber al momento de hacer negocios con Nigeria. No, agradezco y pues bienvenidos. Desde CLAF también los invitamos a las diferentes actividades que estaremos desarrollando durante este año. Estén pendientes de nuestras redes sociales y no, muchísimas gracias por su apoyo y por las diferentes preguntas y apoyo que nos estuvo acompañando. So, thanks, Dr. Samir. Thanks to Lagos Chamber of Commerce. It's been a pleasure to talk this afternoon for you, this morning for Colombia, about these business opportunities, and let's continue working with that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.